that prompted you to do this? Who did you think was dangerous in there? Of course, he could not answer that. So it's again, he was going for his training to send it down and compile this list of so-called terrorists. What you're talking about says common malicious symbols, and underneath says political and anti-government rhetoric, and below that is the political paraphernalia, which included the Libertarian Party. There is no doubt who that they were targeting with this, and we, of course, here in Missouri, they said that they will no longer issue any strategic reports, but I'm not sure how we know that that will be the case. But then we'll continue to have one more hearing here. The citizens are coming out and asking some very pointed questions, and we'll have probably in about 3 weeks, I think, the report will come out with our suggestions on this. A large number of people have said, all the way from disbanding the MIAC to an obvious oversight committee. And what I want to know is, my question, which I haven't got an answer from yet, can anybody in Missouri or any other state find out if they're on the watch list, if they're in the data file for whatever reason why they have been stopped? I think any citizen of this country needs to know whether they've been followed. Just like our watch list and a no-fly list. They got, hundreds of thousands of people on there, and people who shouldn't be on there, and they have a common name they're on. And the same thing's going to happen in this list here that's coming out of this MIAC thing, or this huge database that exists.
And let's be clear, we just discovered this at the Missouri level. It's come out in Virginia and Tennessee and California. It's all the same in general terms. Some are even worse, where they just list everybody. And we've got to dig up that article from 2 years ago in the Denver Post, where the federal marshals went public, the air marshals, saying we've been ordered to put innocent people on databases for life for quotas. Stay with us, Representative.
Let me tell you a little bit about one of our great sponsors, HomeGain.com. This is the place to get you started buying or selling a home, finding a realtor, and getting any real estate questions answered. Go to HomeGain.com and see what I'm talking about. All you need to do is type in your home address, and you will get an instant free estimate of your home's value online. This is a great way to be able to monitor the value of your home. And again, it's absolutely free. There are tons of tools to help you. For instance, if you want to remodel your home, go to HomeGain.com. Use their Home Sale Maximizer to help you determine which home improvements can most increase your home's value before you put it on the market. For 10 years, these folks have been helping home sellers and buyers. Visit their link at Infowars.com. Look for Max, the orange home gain gorilla, to help you with any real estate needs you might have. You'll love this site. It's HomeGain.com, HomeGain.com. Check them out today.
Tony Pacheco here in just a moment. Freelance writer. We want to get his perspective. He's been at these hearings on the MIAC report in Missouri, a window into the secret police world of every local police department, state police, totally federalized, spying. We showed you internal FBI training videos where they say cell phones. In fact, cue it up to that. Cell phones, video cameras, sleeping bags, maps. And, of course, this has all separately come out. That the Texas report that we also broke years ago, 2004, written by the feds, said if somebody's wearing blue jeans, they could be a terrorist. So it's basically everybody's a terrorist but the government, the real terrorist, staging the terror attacks. I want to go to Tony here in just a minute, and I want to keep Representative Guest on with him. But Representative Guest, it came out in testimony, and we have a story written on this with links to it, that there were provocateurs at the Fed rally, and they were overheard saying, yeah, we can't even get them to jaywalk. We're not going to be able to arrest them. And in Denver last year, the police had to admit they did stage attacks on themselves. The Canadian Roll Mounted Police got caught at the SPP meeting doing this. Can you tell us about provocateurs, anarchists in the Fed rallies and now confirmed at the Tea Parties?
I guess they must be. I speak of one, so I must be one of them. I asked that question at those end of the Fed rallies there in Kansas City because I spoke of them. I said, I asked the people, I said, do you watch these, infiltrate them? And they said, no, we don't. We're not as concerned of. However, I have trouble believing that because we see some people at those rallies that we do not recognize, and they just don't fit in. So that's our concern, is that there will be those provocateurs somebody to stir some up, created an instant to justify taking action against these people protesting the Federal Reserve or protesting what these MIAC reports have done. So at some point, I think I'm concerned, afraid that that's what's going to happen to justify this. And the other problem we have is Department of Homeland Security has an interest. They put money into it. And I think they have undue influence on what's going on. The people in these MIAC groups say that, they deny that, say that's not the case, but then they do say, well, they are a source of funding to us to keep some of our organizations going. So,
well, that's what these threat fusion centers are, is where they're moving, generally in former federal buildings or former National Guard armories all over the country. They move the county, the city, multiple counties and cities into one roof. The feds give them cars, helicopters, armored vehicles, dial in to the systems that track cell phones real time, to the federal cameras, the face scanning, the license plate reading cameras. And they're just totally federalizing police. They send them out to spy on everybody and then report people back into these databases that are just full of made-up enemies list and innuendo. My dad got pulled over a couple years ago in East Texas driving back from our family ranch at about 10 o'clock at night, and the guy said, yeah, the cameras flagged you. And people that don't believe this, just Google town runs every plate of every car, and you'll see it in Florida and Indiana and Texas. And the feds pay grants to put these in, and my dad was driving through this little town, flagged as Alex Jones, because I had an old car that I'd sold him. My dad will never buy a new car, so I at least sold him one of my old cars. It's not that he's a penny pincher. He just doesn't like to. He's just from the country. He doesn't buy things. He's got shoes with holes in them and everything else. So I sold him this car for next to nothing. So it had my name on it, and they pulled him over and they got it. And they said, "Are you Alex Jones? I've got you in the database. This said proceed with extreme caution." And my dad said, "How do you know that?" And they said, well, we have this whole database on you now that the feds gave us. So my daddy gets to get interrogated because of me. I mean, this country's Nazi Germany.
There's somebody looking over your shoulder at all points. And my question I had here in Missouri is, why is the MIAC headquarters, which is supposed to be under the direction of Highway Patrol, located on a military base? And I haven't got an answer back from that question yet.
It's just amazing that all of this is going on. I mean, obviously, it's by a military base because you can pull up. In fact, guys, Google this for everybody, or startpage.com for everybody, if you can, the term Army liaison officers or Army officers in local police departments, and you'll get hundreds of hits where they go, oh, the Army's just part of our department now. Representative Guest, have you heard the new report that's come out of the Hill newspaper and out of the Progressive, that now the Army wants 400,000 troops on the streets of America to, quote, deal with domestic extremists? 400,000 troops. I mean, this is really happening.
That's our fear, is that we'll have martial law declared, and we'll already have these federal troops in place around here, and no longer will your local law enforcement be in control, but it'd be the military. So that's just one step towards going in that to that point.
Representative, I want to bring up Tony, who is a freelance writer for The Examiner. He wrote some great stories, very informative, for theexaminer.com. Chuck Baldwin, 2008 VP candidate. Castle testifies regarding MIAC. And, Tony, it's great to have you up with us.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Hello, Mr. Guest. How are you?
I'm fine.
Tell folks, just from your perspective, what you've seen at these hearings.
Well, it's pretty interesting. Obviously, the majority of the time was spent on the MIAC reports themselves, but it was pretty interesting what came out with Dr. Sissy Spraggan's testimony. And I got a hold of her last night and got her to elaborate a little bit more on what happened. So if you don't mind, I could go into that for just a minute.
Yes, and Tony, I want to get this right. Is it Pacheco or Pacheco?
It's Pacheco.
Pacheco, great.
Yeah.
Please continue. Tell folks this breaking information.
Oh, sure. And just to be clear, she she's under the impression that they were harmless, but her story, in my opinion, will kind of say otherwise. She was, she basically said that they were trying to recruit them to cause trouble, and then she went on to say that there's 4 or 5 of them, rather young, and that they were trying to get them, to basically go and disrupt traffic, and that was one of the 4 things that Army Defense report that on In the Fed, to go out and spying. That was one of the 4 things that said that they were trying to avoid.
Yeah, and then that's always the blueprint. The Army says these may be terrorists. Now, if they try to block traffic, they're terrorists. That's a violation of infrastructure protection. Then the Army can get involved.